Alright, Chapter 1. So from here on, I'm going to try and do a better job of commenting and explaining a little bit as I go. I did a pretty poor job of that last time. So basically, I brushed on combat last chapter. It's pretty simple. You just go up next to or one space away from a unit and attack it. Depending on your range, one range characters can only attack if they're next to them, two range can attack if they're two away. And that changes as the game goes on. Also, you'll have more than just one character as you go on. But and we're actually going to get a couple here. But for the prologue chapter last video, it was just Lyn. For this chapter, you get two more characters who are actually mounted units, which I'll explain. So the game is in turns. Your turn, enemy turn, and in some chapters, allied turns. Each turn you get to move all your characters again. Each character can only move once with some exceptions. So yeah, let's jump in. I've brushed on the weapons triangle. Swords beat axes, axes beat lances, and lances beat swords. So it's sort of a triangle with bows in the middle. Bows have no effect on any of the weapons that's positive or negative. Bows are good against Pegasus Knights and Wyvern Riders, though. Magic also has its own circle. Light's good against dark, dark is good against nature, and nature's good against light, with stabs in the middle. So this is Sane, and Kent, his friend. Basically, most Fire Emblems have this continuing motif of the green and red knight units that you get. They're called Cavaliers in this game, they're called Knights in some, they become Paladins basically. They're pretty sturdy characters, and they're, yeah, definitely strong. Definitely want to use one. I try and use only one of them and keep the other low. I try and feed a very select few of characters. I try and feed a very select few characters' experience as I play, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. You want to beef up certain characters so you can have a strong team, and especially for hard mode in these missions. So you end up with like 5 or 6 extraordinarily strong units who are maxed in levels and stats, who can take on the final mission pretty easily. That's the strategy I use. Some people like to level all their characters equally and bring a ton and sort of work with their teamwork, but I find it easier to just level a few. You definitely want to level the heroes no matter what, though. So yeah, as you can see, Sane's a bit of an obnoxious, womanizing character, and Kent is much more reserved, and they sort of balance each other out. This is a running thing with Fire Emblem. It often has these balancing characters, and always has these knights. One unique thing about this game is you're an actual character, you're a tactician. That's not true of all games. In a lot of Fire games, you're just some governing force, you're not actually a character. Something it does different. So a little bit of mystery there, foreshadowing. Alright, ugly number 1. Alright, so as you can see, there's a lot of units on this chapter. Also, as you'll see, the map is very different from the last chapter. Each map is entirely different, which is nice and brings up new challenges. However, the terrain is what I was referring to. Terrain has a big effect on battle, as you'll see, and as it explains here. Alright, so you've just recruited 2 new units. It's called recruiting. There's various ways to recruit units. In some missions like this, they'll just suddenly be on your team. In other missions, you'll have to go up and talk to them, whether they be enemy or ally. Sometimes you're able to recruit enemies. So yeah, as you can see, these are some of their stats and weapons that they hold. So he has 6 strength, 6 skill, and 7 speed, along with 5 defense, which isn't bad. Pretty good defense and 20 health, so he's pretty tough. He has 6 defense compared to his 5, so he's a little bit tougher. Higher strength as well, but he has lower skill and lower speed. So basically Sane's more of a tanky damage dealer. He sort of just sits out there, is hard to kill, and deals high damage. Whereas Kent's a more high speed, high skill unit. So you send him in, hit, and then pull out. He's more of a guerrilla style unit. Depends on what you like. You can give them various stat boosts as they go and items. I like to give Kent boots, which increases movement speed if I level him. That way he ends up as a really high movement, high mobility guerrilla champ. I like to give Sane a lot more defensive items. In my opinion, they're honestly pretty even in stats. It's hard to say which is stronger. They have really similar growths, which is how often their stats go up as they level. But they're both sturdy units. If you would like to use them, I definitely suggest it. Lyn is a level higher than them. But as you can see, has much higher speed. She's definitely a really high speed, low defense unit though. So she's really similar to most Mirindans in this game, swords users. She's high speed, so she'll dodge a lot, but she's low defense, so it won't take much to kill her. She's also really low health, as you can see. I think for this playthrough I'll try and use both Kent and Sane equally. They're both really strong units and definitely worth using. So I'm going to weaken him with a Iron Sword. And he can take the damage really easily. I don't really want to kill him off with her because Sane does need some experience. And then try for a kill. If he misses, you'll see a miss. So that's cool. No, he did hit. He only has a 67% chance of hitting, but he has really high damage, which is really nice. It's just, you want a balance of accuracy and damage in this game. If you have a really strong champion with no skill, you won't be able to hit anything, so it won't be dealing any damage. But if you get a person with really high skill and no damage later in the game, you won't be able to deal any damage because the units have a lot higher defense. Lyn just tears through these guys. Also, this is where I can mention terrain. The terrain they're standing on is forests. As you can see in the bottom right, it gives them 1 defense and an additional 20 avoidance, which means that if someone's attacking them from a plane, you'll have an additional 20% chance of dodging and 1 higher defense. A plane gives you nothing, so it's more of an even keel fight. Some terrain has bigger advantages than others. As you can see in the hills up here, they give you 30 avoidance, and mountains give you 2 defense and 40 avoidance. But they're also harder to move on. Horse units can't even move on mountains, and almost no units can move on mountains besides flying units, and mountain, like these type units, can move on mountains, along with pirates, I believe. So he's taken just a little damage, so I'm going to hold him a bit. And bring him forward, considering he hasn't been hit and has high defense. Making sure to leave him on a forest square so he has a much higher defense and higher avoidance. He took a hit, but he did hit back, so worth trade. I'm going to start bringing her forward, try and finish him off. We're just going to keep attacking him because he's in their range. The AI in this is pretty simple, even in hard mode. They tend to just attack the closest, not the closest unit, but the weakest unit in their range. So if I sent like a really weak unit out, they'd target them and take him out pretty quickly. but I sent Sane out. He was pretty sturdy and can take quite a few hits. Lyn Hard mode isn't really that difficult. Lyn's mode is more for leveling the characters for the next part, the next act of the story. The story is in 2 acts, essentially, yeah. Lyn's, and then, depending on who you choose, either Hector's or Elliewood's story is after Lyn's. So it's in 2 parts. He's level 2, he's level 2, and he's level 1. So I'll move him forward. As you can see, he'll do 8 damage, so in just 2 hits he'll kill him. So if I attack him now, and he hits me, and then he attacks me and hits me, he'll die. So I'm just going to sit him next to him and have him use a vulnerary to heal. Then end my turn. He'll probably get a very large amount of experience from this boss, so he should level up to almost 3 from beating him. We'll see. So yeah, he did hit me, so I'm just going to wait again. He won't kill me this turn. Crit is honestly barely even noticeable in the first 10 chapters of the game. It's not something you worry about, and you don't get any weapons that change your critical chance. In Hector's and Elliewood's story, it's a lot more prevalent, but even it isn't that prevalent till later, till you get some killing weapons or special weapons. But yeah, almost all your enemies will have 0% chance of critting, even bosses in this part, and most of your units will have at most 10% chance of doing critical, which is really low. It means 1 in 10 attacks you'll do a critical, which isn't that common. So yeah, that's chapter 1. Lundgren? What kind of name is that? Oh goodness. Some of the names in this are pretty crazy. Some are pretty cool though, as you'll see. Honestly, in my opinion, the newer games have cooler named characters like Volk and Ike, but this one definitely has some cool characters. So basically, she asks you if you want them to come with you. You say yes. There's no option. In some games, it would give you the option, but in this one, you really have no say in what happens story-wise. You just have to beat the chapters. Alright, so Sword of the Spirits. I'll get back to this chapter in my next video. Hope to see you all next time.